Ladies, let me tell you something right now. Men are not as complicated as y'all think. We might act big, strong, and macho, but mentally, we melt like butter on a hot pancake when you do one simple thing. Men live for respect and recognition, and that's the plain truth a lot of people miss when it comes to relationships. You can buy a man the most expensive gift. You can cook his favorite meal. You can even tell him you love him 100 times a day. But if he doesn't feel respected, it doesn't mean a thing. Respect is the language a man's heart actually hears. It's like fuel for his confidence, his drive, his very identity. Recognition is the proof that he's not just spinning his wheels in life, that the effort he's putting in is actually being noticed by the person he cares about the most. When a man feels respected, he feels like he has a purpose. When he feels recognized, he feels like he's winning. Think about it like this. Most men walk out that door every morning and step into a world that does not care about their feelings. Out there, he's competing, he's grinding, he's getting criticized, he's being told he's not enough. That's just how life treats men. But when he comes home, when he's with his woman, that's supposed to be the place where he feels like he's somebody. That's where respect and recognition become the game changer. A simple, I'm proud of you, or I believe in you, can turn his whole spirit around. Men crave that validation in a way they won't admit out loud because they've been taught that showing that need makes them weak. But deep down, that's exactly what keeps them going. Now let's clear something up. Respect does not mean obedience. It's not about bowing down or losing your power as a woman. Respect is about the way you speak to him, the way you treat him, and the way you acknowledge what he does, even if it's something small. You might think, well, it's his job to take out the trash. Why should I thank him for that? But here's the thing, when you acknowledge it, you're not really praising the task, you're affirming the man behind it. That recognition says, I see you. I see your effort. I notice what you do for me. And that hits him harder than any expensive gift ever could. Recognition also feeds a man's competitive spirit. Men want to win, and in a relationship, winning means making their woman happy. When you recognize his efforts, he takes it as a sign that he's on the right track. And once he knows he's winning, he wants to keep winning. That's when you see him step up more, provide more, protect more, and love harder. It's not manipulation, it's motivation. You're giving him the reward that keeps him striving for you. And here's the twist. Men don't just want respect and recognition in big, flashy ways. It's the small, everyday moments that matter most. Saying thank you when he does something thoughtful. Not rolling your eyes when he shares an idea, even if it's not the smartest one. Listening when he talks instead of cutting him off. Looking at him like you still admire him, even after years together. Those little gestures pile up and create a mental space where he feels safe, seen, and strong. That's the kind of respect that melts a man's mind and ties his loyalty tighter than any physical attraction ever could. Appreciation melts a man's mind faster than love alone. Because while love is something people say, appreciation is something a man feels. You can tell a man, I love you, over and over, but if he doesn't feel appreciated for who he is and what he does, those words start to sound empty. Love is the foundation, but appreciation is the daily reminder that his presence, his effort, and his sacrifice actually matter. A man can go without hearing, I love you, for a while, but the moment he feels unappreciated, his spirit begins to shut down. It's not that he stops caring, it's that he stops feeling like he has a purpose in the relationship. Appreciation is proof that you notice him, that you value the little things he brings to the table, and that you don't take him for granted. Men are wired to give, to fix, to provide, and to protect. That's part of how they see their role in a relationship, whether they say it out loud or not. When he goes out into the world to work, to hustle, or to build something, he's not just doing it for himself, he's doing it so that you can feel secure and proud to stand by his side. If none of that effort gets acknowledged, he starts to wonder what it's all for. But when you show appreciation, you're feeding that part of him that needs to know he's making a difference. That simple, thank you for working so hard, or I appreciate what you do for us, flips a switch in his head that keeps him pushing even harder. Appreciation doesn't just melt his mind. It empowers him to keep being the man you need him to be. Now, the key is understanding that appreciation doesn't always have to be grand or dramatic. Men notice the little things more than people think. When you smile at him for bringing you your favorite snack without asking, when you brag about him in front of others, when you acknowledge his effort, even if it didn't turn out perfect, those are the things that sink deep into his mind. It's not the size of the gesture, it's the consistency of it. He doesn't need a parade. He just needs to feel that his presence has weight in your life. A lot of men walk around carrying invisible burdens. Responsibility, pressure, fear of failure, and they rarely talk about it. Appreciation is what helps lighten that load. It reassures him that someone sees how hard he's trying, even if he doesn't have everything figured out. When he feels appreciated, he doesn't feel like he's failing, even when life is tough. That recognition becomes his safe space, the place where he can recharge mentally. And that's why appreciation has a deeper effect than love alone. Love may keep him connected to you emotionally, but appreciation keeps him motivated, inspired, and willing to give his best. It's the kind of acknowledgement that melts away the hardness men carry on their shoulders and opens the softer, more vulnerable side they usually keep hidden. Admire him like he's your hero, because admiration is the fuel that powers a man's soul. Every man, no matter how strong or confident he looks on the outside, has an inner need to feel like the person he loves sees him as extraordinary. He doesn't want to just be tolerated. He wants to be celebrated. When you admire him, it tells him he is valuable, capable, and worthy in your eyes, and that single feeling can transform the way he carries himself in every area of life. Men are built to conquer challenges, but what they crave deep down is to know that their effort makes them heroic in the eyes of the woman they care about. That kind of admiration does something to a man's spirit that nothing else can. It's not about putting him on a pedestal or acting like he can do no wrong. True admiration comes from noticing the qualities that make him unique and letting him know that you see them. When he solves a problem, when he stays calm under pressure, when he works hard for his family, those are the moments where admiration matters most. Even when it's not about something big, even when it's just the way he makes you laugh or the way he fixes something around the house, acknowledging that with genuine admiration builds him up more than any material gift could. To a man, admiration is like a spotlight that makes him feel strong, confident, and deeply connected to you. A man who feels admired will push himself further, not because he has to, but because he wants to keep living up to that image in your eyes. He wants to keep being the hero you already believe he is. That admiration becomes a mirror he looks into, reminding him of his own strength when the world tries to tell him he's weak. It's not about stroking his ego blindly. It's about recognizing that men thrive on being seen as capable and dependable. Without admiration, Even love can feel shallow because love without admiration starts to feel like pity or obligation. With admiration, love feels like partnership and celebration. This doesn't mean you have to constantly shower him with compliments, but small expressions of admiration in daily life matter more than you realize. Looking at him with pride when he's speaking, telling him you trust his judgment, or saying, "I'm so glad you're mine," are simple words that carry enormous weight. When you show admiration, you're not just complimenting him, you're validating his role in your life. That validation strengthens his identity and motivates him to keep showing up as the best version of himself. Men want to be heroes, not just in fairy tales or movies, but in their real relationships. When you admire him like he's your hero, you're giving him a sense of purpose that nothing else can replace. He doesn't just feel like a man. He feels like you're man, and that distinction means everything to him. A man's ego is his oxygen. Protect it, because without it, he suffocates mentally and emotionally. The ego is not just about pride or arrogance. It's the core of how a man defines himself in the world. It's his sense of worth, his belief that he can handle life, his drive to achieve and provide. When a man feels like his ego is being crushed, it doesn't matter how much love is around him. He feels powerless, just like you can't survive without air. A man can't function at his best if he feels disrespected or constantly torn down. Protecting his ego doesn't mean babying him or letting him get away with everything. It means understanding that the way you speak to him, the way you respond to him, and the way you acknowledge him has the power to either build him up or suffocate him. Most men won't ever admit how fragile their ego really is. They've been taught to act tough, to hide their insecurities, to never let anybody see weakness. But underneath that armor, their ego is sensitive. That's why the smallest words can cut the deepest. A careless comment, a dismissive look, or constant criticism can make him feel like he's failing, not just as a partner, but as a man. The world already challenges his ego every single day. At work, in society, through expectations he can't always meet. If he also feels like his ego isn't safe at home, he starts to shut down. He withdraws. He stops trying. He becomes distant, not because he doesn't care, but because the place that should protect him is hurting him instead. Protecting his ego doesn't mean lying to him or pretending he's perfect. It's about choosing to build him instead of break him. You can be honest without being harsh. You can correct without humiliating. You can disagree without disrespect. A man feels secure when he knows that even if the world is tearing him apart, his woman will handle his ego with care. That's what keeps him coming back, opening up, and giving more of himself. When his ego feels safe with you, he trusts you with his vulnerabilities, the parts of himself he doesn't show to anyone else. That's when he becomes softer, more connected, more loyal, because his oxygen is being replenished instead of taken away. The way you handle his ego also affects how he performs in life. When you encourage him, when you acknowledge his efforts, when you remind him that you believe in him, you're pumping air back into his lungs. You're giving him the strength to push harder, fight longer, and climb higher. But when you constantly tear down, belittle, or compare him to others, you're cutting off that oxygen. A man who feels respected and whose ego is protected will move mountains for the woman who gives him that security. He will push past his limits, not because he has to, but because he feels capable, trusted, and worthy. That's why protecting his ego is not about making him weak. It's about allowing him to stay strong. The world beats him down. Home should build him up, because every man is constantly fighting silent battles that most people never see. Out there, He's dealing with pressure from work, expectations from society, financial stress, competition, and the way to being strong even when he feels weak. The world doesn't hand out kindness to men easily. It demands results, it criticizes mistakes, and it rarely pauses to appreciate the effort behind the struggle. By the time he walks through the front door, he's already been carrying a heavy load on his shoulders. If home doesn't feel like a place of refuge, if the person he loves doesn't build him up, he begins to feel like he has no safe place at all. A man doesn't always come out and say how hard the day has been. He won't always admit that he feels unappreciated, overlooked, or worn out. Instead, he'll keep it bottled up because the world tells him that complaining makes him weak. That's why home becomes so important. Home is supposed to be the one space we can exhale, where he doesn't have to pretend, where he can let down his guard. When he walks in and feels respect, admiration, and appreciation from his partner, it recharges him. It gives him the strength to get back out there tomorrow and face it all over again. But if he walks in and feels criticized, dismissed, or nagged, it only adds weight to the load he's already carrying. Building him up at home doesn't require huge sacrifices or complicated gestures. It's the small things that matter most. Listening when he talks, even if the subject seems unimportant. Thanking him for the little contributions he makes. Smiling at him when he walks in, because that one look can undo hours of stress. Giving him words of encouragement when he feels stuck, instead of reminding him of where he's falling short. These are the things that make home feel like a sanctuary instead of another battlefield. When a man knows he has a partner who believes in him, who sees his effort, and who values his presence, he becomes stronger in every area of life. That kind of support lifts his confidence, fuels his ambition, and strengthens his loyalty. He doesn't have to question if he matters because he feels it every time he comes home. And that doesn't just affect him, it affects the entire relationship. A man who feels built up at home will do everything in his power to return that energy, to provide, to protect, and to love with consistency. The world outside will always have challenges, but the way he feels inside his home determines how well he can face them. The stress and demands of life may drain him, but encouragement and respect from his partner refill him. That balance is what keeps him mentally strong, emotionally secure, and willing to keep giving his best. Home isn't just a physical space. It's the emotional environment created by the people inside it. And when that space builds him up, instead of tearing him down, it becomes the greatest source of power he has. When he feels valued, he'll never stop chasing you because value is what makes a man lock in and give his all. A man can be attracted to beauty, he can be interested in charm, but what makes him stay and commit is the sense that he is holding on to someone priceless. When he feels like you value him, like you don't take him for granted, his entire mindset toward the relationship shifts. He no longer sees it as something temporary or replaceable. He sees it as his purpose, his mission, his blessing. That feeling of being valued fuels his loyalty and keeps his attention right where it belongs. Men are natural hunters by design. They love the thrill of pursuit, the chase, the challenge of winning a woman's heart. But once they've caught her, the chase doesn't automatically stop. What determines whether he keeps pursuing or gets comfortable and careless is how much value he feels from the relationship. If he feels overlooked, dismissed, or unappreciated, he starts to drift mentally, even if he's still physically present. But if he feels like you truly see his worth, like his presence in your life is important, he'll keep chasing you every day as if he's still trying to win you for the first time. Value is shown in the little things. When you recognize his efforts, when you respect his opinions, when you show appreciation for the sacrifices he makes, that communicates value louder than any words. Even your energy matters. When you smile at him, when you treat him with admiration, when you look at him like he's the man you're proud to stand beside, he feels valued in a way that nothing else can replace. That sense of value becomes his motivation to keep showing up, to keep improving, and to keep making sure you're happy. Feeling valued doesn't mean being spoiled with gifts or being constantly flattered. It's about genuine acknowledgement. A man can sense when you're just going through the motions, and he can tell when you truly mean it. Authentic recognition is what reaches him on a deeper level. He wants to know that you don't just love him for what he provides, but that you value who he is as a man, flaws and all. When he knows that, he feels safe enough to open up emotionally, to be vulnerable, and to invest even more of himself in the relationship. When a man feels valued, he becomes consistent. He doesn't stop chasing because he knows the woman he has is worth the effort, and he feels like she sees the worth in him too. That mutual recognition creates a cycle where both people pour into each other instead of one person constantly feeling drained. He doesn't just see you as his partner. He sees you as his prize, his safe place, his reason for pushing forward. And because he feels valued, he'll keep pursuing, keep protecting, and keep loving with the same energy he had when everything was brand new. At the end of the day, men may look tough on the outside, but on the inside, they crave the same thing women do: to feel seen, valued, and respected. When you understand how deeply men respond to respect, admiration, appreciation, and recognition, you unlock the part of them that stays loyal and consistent. The world already puts pressure on them, already challenges their strength, already questions their worth, which is why your role becomes so powerful. Home should be the place where his ego is protected, his efforts are noticed, and his presence is celebrated. When he feels like he's your hero, when he feels like his value is undeniable, he doesn't just love you, he devotes himself to you. Relationships thrive when both people lift each other up, but the key to a man's heart and mind is simpler than most think: make him feel truly valued.